What is going on, guys? It is Daniel Wright, and you are here listening to another episode of Paving the Way. As always, happy to have you here tuning in. Hopefully, we're going to provide a little bit of nuggets, some things to think about, some things to help you grow, some things to help you make some more money. Yeah, I know I haven't really gotten into a lot of money stuff, right? A lot of times I talk more about leadership, business development, people development, things like that. But we're going to wrap all those things into a little bit of a formula of how to turn that into money and make more of it. Whether you own a business, whether you work in a business, or anywhere in between, I've got a couple strategies that I want to share with you on how you can provide more values to your peers, your clients, your team, your organization, whatever it may be. So, guys, this week, like I said, this came to mind because as our business is continuing to grow, our team members are continuing to grow, and when they continue to grow and their lives continue to grow, they need to make more money as well, right? We all know that you can't just grow and build your life on the same income that you start out with in an organization or that you start out with in your career. Anybody who wants to do anything with their life needs to advance their income. They need to advance the amount of money they make, the way they make the money, be able to make more money for their time, so on and so forth. But there's ways you have to go about doing it, right? You can't just wake up one day and expect to be making more money. The only role that you can do that in is if you are in sales, that you directly affect your income, your commissions, your compensation, or you own a business and you provide a service or a product that you can go immediately impact sales to draw revenue into you in your pocket, right? And so the more I've been seeing this come up, the more I've been hearing the topic come up about, truthfully, young individuals, young adults that we have working with us that are growing up, they're starting lives, starting families, building houses, whatever it may be in their world. I'm like, okay, well, what is the formula to grow and to make more money? Well, I've heard a rendering of this before, but the three big things that I can say that you need to do that is you need to learn, you need to implement, you need to grow. So those are the things that we're going to dive into today. With that being said, let's get started. All right, guys. All right, let's go ahead and get right into it. Like I said before the intro kicked on, is we are going to be talking about how to make more money by implementing a strategy that consists of learning, implementing, and growing. All right. Like I said before, guys, everybody who's trying to build a life worth building needs to advance, needs to grow their life, needs to increase their income, needs to grow what they're capable of doing and providing, right? When you're young, single, and just taking care of yourself and only are worrying about where you're going to go get beer on Friday nights or Thursday nights or Tuesday nights or whatever nights you go get your beers, or where you're going to go hang out on Saturday with your friends or what you're going to do on Sunday, all that stuff is easy, right? We're just living for the weekends. We're living paycheck to paycheck, and we're just making things happen and getting by. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt, right? But as you continue to grow in your life and grow your responsibilities in whatever that way may be. For some people who aren't trying to grow a family, it could just be you're trying to, move into a home that you own instead of rent an apartment. Or you're trying to upgrade your vehicle that you drive instead of the very first vehicle you bought to something that you can be a little bit more comfortable in, that's more reliable. Regardless of how you're trying to advance your life and the responsibilities that come with it, all that stuff incurs cost, okay? Well, when you start incurring more costs, you obviously would like to make more money to pay for those costs. And so there's jobs out there where you unfortunately don't have a lot of control over how much money you make. You either are on a set salary, you have a set hourly work week, you have set shifts, whatever it might be. But you get into other fields where you have opportunities to pick up overtime. You have opportunities to pick up higher paying shifts, right? Like if you're in some fields, you can work special events and make double pay. Other fields, you work nights and weekends, you make more money doing that. So there's opportunities out there to be able to make more money in some industries, and there's other places where you're set. What I'm aiming this towards is more the people who have opportunities to grow and advance, provide more value, and in turn earn more income. Okay. And so the first step about learning, right? Learn, implement, and grow. The first step is you have to learn, and you have to learn all the skills, all the tactics, all the strategies that there is in whatever you do on a daily basis. You need to be a sponge about everything. And when I say be a sponge, that's not just while you're on the clock doing the job. That's what you're getting paid to do. What I'm talking about is being a sponge in the hours that you don't have to be learning, that you don't have to be being a sponge. What it means is you spend your evenings learning how to fine-tune your skills. You spend your mornings listening to podcasts or books about how to be better at whatever role you're trying to be better at, whether it's leadership, whether it's a specific industry or trade or anything like that. It means you spend your weekends studying your field. How do people grow in your industry, right? I can tell you that when I was a fireman and I was still learning the craft, there would be times where I'd be getting off shift, at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and the oncoming shift would be getting into a conversation or getting into a training scenario about various things. And if I didn't have anywhere that I had to specifically be, another job or anything else I had going on at the time, I would spend extra time not getting paid for it, but just to spend time with those individuals who were talking about what it is I wanted and needed to learn if I wanted to grow and advance as a fireman. Because I understood the value that came by putting in the work and putting in the effort. Even though I wasn't getting immediately compensated for it, I knew it would provide value, and in turn, the value would be returned to me at some point, right? And so you have to make sure that you're continuously staying curious, because the people who rise to the top and that grow in their organizations are the ones who never stop learning. They're never stopping asking themselves, how can I do this better? How can we do this better? Right? And you have to be careful not to get yourself into the better idea fairy, that there's always a better way. There typically is. But there's a time and a place to be studying that. It's not when you're out on the job executing it. It's not when you're in the office doing what you need to be doing to get your job done for the day. It's when you have the time to think and get creative and analyze what it is you're doing and how you can improve it, how you can learn more to provide more value to your team and your organization. Okay. And then you have to make sure that when you're learning from the results, because there's going to be things that you try that do not work. Okay. I would be safe to call you an idiot if you try something that doesn't work and you just keep doing that. Pretty positive that's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. But if you learn what works and then you can share that with others, that's progress. That's providing value. And so my challenge to you in the learning phase of it is to make sure that you are seeking to master whatever it is your role is currently. And then you begin to study and absorb everything you can for the role that you want to step into. And like I said previously, guys, at the intro, this can apply whether you own the business, whether you work in the business, or you're anywhere in between. Because if you're listening to this podcast, you're somebody who's wanting to grow and develop your life, your personal life. That's why it's called paving the way. We want to pave the way to the life and the future that you desire for yourself and everyone who counts on you. That's what we do here, okay? So if you're listening to this, if you're watching this right now, you have a desire to grow. And that desire to grow has to start with being willing to learn. Day in, day out, no excuses, okay? Once you've spent time learning and mastering your role, and you've spent enough time learning where you want to go, then that's where the implement phase comes into play, okay? You need to, you guessed it, apply what you know, all right? Knowledge is useless without action, right? The gap between knowing and doing is where most people get stuck. There's a lot of individuals that I see come through our organization that they get taught. They demonstrate, but they don't take that ownership and do it on their own. They have to be pushed. They have to be reminded. They have to be, kind of drug along a little bit. But if you can implement what you know and confidently show everybody how good you are at it, well, then that's when you start demonstrating the value that you bring to the table. That's when people start looking at you and saying, this guy or this girl might have something, right? You have to be willing to implement new ideas, new systems, and new habits quickly. Speed to action creates momentum, okay? So you have to make sure that when you've learned something, you implement it, it works, jump on it. because I can promise you that there's likely going to be someone else sitting to your left or to your right that's going after the same thing you're going after. And whether we like to admit it or not, because we're all friends with our peers, we are all in competition for wanting to grow and develop into the best versions of ourselves within the organizations we're in. Most people work for some sort of a small business. In a small business, there's not ample amounts of opportunity for advancements, promotions, and things like that. You might have to wait your turn. And so if you've learned something, if you're able to implement something to provide value to the organization, jump on it. Be confident in it. Let your leaders, let your peers, let everybody know that you have something to provide and you have something to offer. Because then when you do that, you're showing that you can execute what you've learned. And so I can tell you right now, guys, there's a lot of people who learn a lot and they can't execute on it. It goes in one ear, it swirls around in their head, and they have no idea how to grab a hold of it and make something out of it. That's what separates the people who want to be leaders and the people who are going to be leaders. They can take the information they've learned, the knowledge they've gained, and be able to implement it and provide actionable results to get an outcome they desire. Okay. So we talked about how to learn, right? Expanding on what you know, making sure to be a sponge, taking the notes, spending the extra time when you don't have to do it and you'd rather be doing other things, but instead you prioritize taking in as much as you can so that way you can provide as much value as you can. And then we've talked about implementing all those things that you've learned, being quick to action, making sure that you get moving on them, showing people that you're not just here to listen, you're here to do, right? We've all heard the saying that actions speak louder than words. So anybody can come and tell you they're learning something. You can go tell anybody everything you know, but unless you do it, unless you show it, no one believes it. Okay. And the last step to making more money by providing more value is you grow. You multiply what you've built. Okay. So I can tell you right now, as an entrepreneur, as the owner of my company, by being able to grow and multiply what I've learned over the last 10 to 15 years in business, leadership, entrepreneurship, you name it, in the business world, I've learned a lot of it. What I've been able to grow and multiply has provided us opportunities to bring on and support more and more individuals, to be able to chase my mission of making a big and positive impact in and around our pavement maintenance industry that we possibly can. But because I was able to learn it and be a sponge, if you ask some of these guys in our industry, guys, they will probably make fun of how much of a sponge I was when they first met me at these industry conferences, industry trade shows, and I'd be sitting around these tables and I'd ask a question and I'd sit silently and listen. There may or may not be a story that I got invited to a dinner with some of the greatest influencers in our industry years ago, about 9 years ago, up in Cleveland, Ohio. And I went to this trade show. I got invited to this dinner because one of the guys there invited me, and I was sitting there, and the story says that everybody else ate their entire meals, and I hadn't touched one thing on my plate because I was busy asking questions, busy learning, busy writing down notes, expanding on ideas, trying to understand as much as I possibly could in this industry. Okay. So because I was willing to do all that, to be the sponge, to take it all in as much as I possibly can and continue to do so. And then because I was able to take what I learned and put it into play, right? And again, guys, you can do this whether you own the company or whether you work in the company, because every good business that's worth being a part of wants entrepreneurs. They want people to take ownership, take leadership, take initiative, and to build inside the organization that you guys are creating. All right. And it's because the good entrepreneur knows that they cannot build the vision on their own. They have to have people on the team that are willing to put in as much as they're willing to put in, that they're willing to be there every step of the way. They're willing to drive, they're willing to push, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to make this mission come possible. And so because I was willing and able to take everything that I had learned and implement it into people who had no idea what I was talking about half the time, because none of them had any experience in this industry. And I was able to implement, hey, if we do this strategy here and we try this here, and then after we do this, do that, this should get us the outcome we're doing. That's the implementation. And because I did that time and time and time again over the last several years, I was able to grow something that now supports 15 individuals on a regular basis, 15 humans, 15 meals, 15 bills, 15 vehicles, 15 vacations, 15 birthdays, Christmases, whatever it may be. And to some of you out there, you may think, man, I remember when I had 15. That was years ago. Great. Would love to have you on and have you teach me, because I want to continue to be a sponge on how to get where you're at. Because I want to support more. I want to grow more. I want to implement more. Okay? In this type of mentality, guys, you can hear the passion that I have right now. If you're trying to build a life that you want to be proud of, you have to be willing to grow. You have to be willing to multiply. You have to be willing to get uncomfortable, take the risks, and teach others what you know. That's the mark of a true leader. The mark of a true leader, and I believe John Maxwell might be quoted in saying this, there's probably others, but the mark of a true leader, a great leader, is how many other leaders can they develop. Think about that. If you want to make more money, and you're not in a role of sales where you just go sell and create commissions, or you're not some sort of a business owner that is selling a product or a service and you just decide how hard you want to sell each day, which again relates back to sales. If you're in that organization and you want to make more money, you must provide more value. How do you provide more value? You help allow that business, that organization, that company to grow. You build yourself into a leader that can be trusted and counted on, and then you build others around you into leaders that can be trusted and counted on. Because I can tell you right now, from our business's example, we intend and we plan to get into other markets over the next several years. What's that going to create? That's going to create opportunities in the field, right, for our operations team, for branch managers, for foremans that are dedicated to certain markets. It's going to create opportunity for salespeople to take over markets. It's going to create opportunity for marketing and media to provide more content for us. It's going to create opportunity in our administration department for more support teams. Okay, it's going to create opportunities for everyone. The first place that I'm going to look when we want to grow into those and create a new role is, who do I have on my team that can fill this now? And if your name doesn't pop to my mind, it's not a good sign. It might be good if you want to stay stagnant. It might be good if you're not trying to grow. It might be good if you're not trying to advance your life. And that's fine, because there's plenty of people out there who are okay with that. They're probably not watching this podcast right now. But if you're wanting to grow, and if you're wanting to better your life and the people's lives who count on you, you better hope your name pops into the mind of your leader, your manager, your owner. Or if you are the owner, you better hope that your team members, when they are having conversations about where their future lies and what their dreams are, you better hope that you as the leader, you as the business owner, pops into their mouth, pops into their mind about, I really believe that he's going to take me where I want to go. Or I really believe she's got what it takes to make these dreams happen that she tells us about. Because guys, everybody sees right through your bullshit. Everybody sees right through all the words you talk. Last week I did the podcast on just do it. You can talk about all the stuff you want to do. You can talk about all the things that you're going to accomplish. But unless you do it, no one cares. And so if you're in the organization, or if you own the organization, the bottom line is, if you want to make more money, you must create more value. How do you create more value? You learn, you implement, and you grow. That's the simple recipe. If you don't do those things on your own, you are not creating more value. You will not advance yourself, and you will not make more money, except for maybe the every now and then cost of living raises that we just have to do. Okay? And so this is geared right towards the people who want to make more. They want to provide more, they want to do more, they want to be more, and they want to accomplish more. You have the ability to do it. And if you don't have the ability to do that in the organization you're in, come talk to me. I'll hire you. And you can put your money where your mouth is. So that's my challenge to you guys this week. As we're going into quarter four, as we're going into the backslide of 2025, and we're going to be gearing up for 2026. Well, not going to be. We're already talking about 2026. But if we're going to end this year strong, if we're going to make sure we can go into next year with as much momentum as possible, you need to be asking yourself, what kind of value am I providing to my team? What kind of value am I providing to my clients? What kind of value am I providing to my peers? Because if I'm not, and I'm not satisfied with the amount of money I'm making, look at yourself in the mirror and you found your problem. It's you. So that's what I challenge you to do. Take inventory. Are you providing the value necessary? Are you willing to learn? Are you willing to implement what you've learned? And are you willing to grow and multiply the things that you've learned and the things that you've implemented? Okay. As a closing thought, I've got this for you. Making more money isn't about chasing the dollar. It's about increasing your value. When you learn relentlessly, implement consistently, and grow intentionally, the money becomes a byproduct of who you're becoming. Guys, I say it all the time. I'm in business to make the biggest positive impact in and around the pavement maintenance industry that we possibly can. I want to create great experiences. I want to help people. I want to build relationships. I'm willing to take ownership, to always be learning. Okay. And I can tell you right now, if I do those things, and if I do them on a big enough scale, all the money that I ever need and want to make will be a byproduct of accomplishing those things. So you got to make sure that you're grounded, that you're rooted, and you know exactly why you're doing what you're doing. Because if you don't, it's going to be really hard to show up every day and provide the most amount of value that you possibly can. So guys, as always, I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate all those who are following along on our journey on social media, on YouTube. I know Randy puts a ton of effort every week, every day into making the best content we can possibly provide for you, whether it's educational or entertaining or educational or edutaining, the combination, right, between funny and entertaining. I don't know. But nonetheless, follow along on that journey, guys. You guys hear me talk over here. This is the 175th episode of Paving the Way. 175 times that I've gotten in front of a camera, that I've turned this thing on, I've turned this mic on, and I've tried to give you as much value as possible. And guys, I can be honest with you. There's times I get in front of this camera and I think, man, I got nothing to offer today, nothing to provide. And then somebody out there shoots me a message, sends me a comment, shares something, and tells me how much they appreciate it. You can do the same thing in your life. You can show up even when you don't feel like it. Provide the most amount of value that you possibly can from your heart. And someone will recognize it. Someone will appreciate it. And someone will be impacted by it. So guys, I thank you. I appreciate you. As a little side note, I'm going to be heading out of town this week to celebrate my 10-year wedding anniversary. I say out of town. We're actually heading out of the country. So next week's episode is TBD. It may be an episode that I can get to you from Ireland, or I may throw up one of the most liked replays. So as always, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. I hope you keep on charging through the end of 2025 strong, getting ready for a solid 2026. And as always, let me know if you need anything. I am here to help. So thank you, guys. Have a great week.